Hi, everyone. My name is Joe O'Brien. I'm the project manager here at Civicor, the technology platform provider for the Amazing Rays this year. We're going to get started in just a couple of minutes, but we're going to wait to give everybody an opportunity to join and get settled in before we get started. So bear with us for a few minutes. Thank you. Hi again, everyone. Joe here with Civicor. We're going to wait just a couple of extra minutes for anybody who's coming in a little bit late before we get started, and then we'll kick things off. So thank you for your patience. We'll get started here in just a minute or two. Thanks. Oh, and by the way, this is a webinar, so if you have a question or a comment that you'd like to raise, in the top left corner you should see a little Q&A button. Click that and you can type in your question. Otherwise, everyone is muted on the call today. Thank you. Hi, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started now. My name's Joe O'Brien. Again, for those just joining, I'm the project manager here with Civicor, the technology platform provider for the Amazing Raise this year. And I'm the main point of contact for technology-related questions and setting up the system and getting things up and running for the day. We also have Ashley and Holly on the line with us as well.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on this Amazing Raise webinar. If you have any questions, please log into the question and answer bar there, and we can certainly help you out. If you think of anything after the webinar, you definitely know how to reach myself or Ashley. We'd be happy to help you.
Great, thanks, Holly. Yeah, so just a couple of housekeeping points before we get into the site itself. Everyone is muted by default here today. If you have a question, there should be a little icon in the top left corner of your screen that says Q&A. You can click on that and type your question right in. That'll go to myself as well as Ashley and Holly, and we'll try and answer those questions as they come in. Please don't hesitate. If there's anything that you have a question about, this is the time to ask. Because we have about a week or so before we close down content management and profile creation for your organization. So we want to make sure that we use this not only as an opportunity to talk about what you can expect on the actual Gives Day, what the site is going to look like, and how donors are going to interact with the site and your profile, but also as a last opportunity to ask any of those questions that you might have about managing content or making changes to your profile so that you put the best foot forward on October 17th. So with that being said, we're going to jump into a few different areas here of the site and what it's going to look like on Gives Day. So on Gives Day, the site will look a little bit different from how it does right now. There will be a couple of different links up here. So if you've been on the site recently, you'd notice that there's an NPO resources button. That's where this Who We Are button is right now on my screen that you're seeing. That will go away on Gives Day, and it'll be replaced by a leaderboards button. And we'll talk a little bit about leaderboards and prizes later on. But there will be some changes to the way that the site looks actually on the Gives Day to make it a little bit more dynamic and interesting for donors. So to start off with that, we're going to go right into what's displaying on the page. It's different and how those things are going to function. So the first thing is the donation ticker. This is a total that's being raised from all organizations throughout the day. This includes scheduled donations, so it's just the total amount that everybody's donating and raising on the day. This includes matching funds, which we'll also talk about a little bit later on. There will also be a countdown timer. This countdown timer will be counting down how many hours left there are, minutes and seconds in the day. So it's a 24-hour giving event. There will be 24 hours right at midnight, and it'll be counting down throughout the day to give donors an idea of how much time they have left to make their donation. There'll be a Give Now button, so you can dive right into giving to the nonprofit page. And then there'll be a search bar, which we'll talk about a little bit. And you'll see also a scroller here we call the horizontal scroller that shows as a dynamic feature organizations that are receiving active donations. So your organization's logo that you have on the profile page, that's the logo for your organization, that will show up here if your organization receives a donation. So just another way that we make things a little bit interactive throughout the day. So you may see your organization scroll through here as you get a donation. Taking a little bit of a deeper look at the search functionality here, you can search by the name of the organization, keywords that are in the mission statement of the organization, or the zip code of the organization if you're looking for a particular area. When you're doing that search, you can also a filter by category right off the bat. So if you're looking for a particular, if you're a donor and you're on the site, you're looking for an organization within a particular category, you can choose that and it'll show you just the organizations that have selected that category. When you click on donate, it takes those things into account and shows you the relevant results. Because I didn't pick a category or put anything in the search box, it's just showing me all the organizations that are in the system. So as a donor, this is where I'll land and come to donate and find the organizations that I want to support. There will be this little give button here that'll allow you to essentially directly navigate to the donation page. So skipping one step in the process, normally if you click on an organization's profile here, it takes you to their overall profile where you can learn more about that organization, look at testimonials, other programs or events that that organization might have going on, and then choose to donate. Using that little give button just allows you to kind of say, yep, I already know this organization. This is who I want to give to. You click there, it takes you directly to this donation page. But going back a step and looking at the organization here, there are a couple of things that are going to be different on the actual day than what your profile looks like right now. You will see if you have a match pool, you'll see that match pool show up right here, and you'll also see this $0, 0 unique donors information. This is the one on the left, the $0, 0 unique donors, is the same as on the main page, except it's specific for your organization. So it shows the running total throughout the day. This is dynamic and takes into account donations as they're coming in. It shows your running total for the whole day that your organization has received through donations. It also shows you how many unique donors have donated to your organization. So how many people have donated to you throughout the day. If you have a match pool, that match pool will show up to the right of that unique donors area. There are a couple of specific unique qualities about matching with our system that I'm going to go over right now. But if you know that you have a match pool but you haven't entered anything in, you can do that. I'll show you right now where that shows up on the back end so that you can adjust that if you do have a match pool that you want to show up. If you want to have a match pool, you're going to come to your organization. You're going to click on Overview. You're going to edit your organization profile. And then below the logo area and below your category and operating budget, there's a question that says Matching Funds. If you check yes on matching funds, this new field will pop up. So by default, it's set to no, so it'll not appear. If you say yes, we do have matching funds, the matching fund amount will show up, and you'll be able to enter any dollar amount that you have that's matching. When you put that amount in on the day of, that amount will show up right here on the match pool. So for this organization, Cats on Parade, which is my personal test organization here, you'll see that I put a $5,000 matching amount. Where you get that $5,000, where you get any kind of matching is totally up to you. There's no verification on our part when it comes to that. That's just something for you to use as a tool to leverage more donations if you have it available to you and would like to kind of use that for the day. So a couple of unique things about the match pool. One is that the match pool is dynamic, just like the amount of donations are dynamic. And so as people donate, the match pool will reduce until it hits 0, at which point the match pool will disappear from the page. So if I have a $5,000 match pool, as people are donating, it's going to subtract from the match pool and add to my total donations. So for example, if I have a donor that comes to the site that wants to donate $1,000 to my organization, when they make that $1,000 donation, It'll show up in your list of donations as $1,000, but for the purposes of your ticker here, for the purposes of the total that you've received in donations for the day, your donation amount will go up by $2,000, $1,000 for the original donation and $1,000 for the match pool. At the same time, that $5,000 will become $4,000. So $1,000 gets subtracted from the match pool, added to the amount that you've raised throughout the day. So if I were here with Cats on Parade to totally meet my match, I would have $5,000 of actual donations and $5,000 of match. So my total for the day would look like $10,000. This is something that we'll talk a little bit about with prizes when we look at some of the rules around winning prizes and competing for some of the prizes that are available for nonprofits throughout the day. But just an important thing to note is that match pool amounts are not included in prize totals. So if you're running for a particular prize, you're trying to win a prize as a nonprofit on the day, that match pool amount doesn't count because we can't verify that match pool amount is real because it's not being processed through our system. We don't actually count those match pool amounts. And so with that being said, the total that you have on your organization profile and consequently the total that you might see on the leaderboards doesn't necessarily indicate the actual dollar amount that's being recognized towards whether or not you've won or haven't won a prize. It's something that you'll have to check in with Holly or Ashley if you have particular questions about that on the day of, but just know that match pool amount is not being counted towards prizes. Another important thing to note about the match pool is that this is just like all other content management on your profile. This closes for any modification on October 3rd, so next Tuesday, just over a week from now, we're closing content management. That means that you won't be able to go in and edit your mission statement, the multimedia photos or video that you have, programs, events. Your page will pretty much be static after October 3rd. This is so that donors can have a consistent experience when they're coming to the site. They're not seeing changes taking place while they're on the site and considering what organizations to donate to. So please make sure to take that into account. Match pool amounts won't be able to be modified after October 3rd, as with the rest of your profile. If I'm a donor and I'm here on the page for the organization that I want to donate to, on Gives Day, I'll be able to donate to that organization, clicking the Donate Now button. When I do so, it'll take me to a page where I can enter in the amount that I want to donate to. You'll notice that I have a few buttons here under donation amount of varying donation levels that someone can pre-select, and it'll automatically use that amount for their donation. This is something that you can entirely can control. By default, there are none of these pre-selected. There are no default donation amounts. There are things that you totally control. If you don't choose to use any of the donation amounts, you'll just see the amount box here where someone can type in their actual donation amount that they want. But if you know that your program or your organization has, if you want to set particular amounts for the Cats on Parade organization, which is an organization that's dedicated to putting on cat parades around town, we set donation amounts. So $10 is a donation that can cover a collar for a cat, or $25 is a leash for a cat. Or if you're really generous, you can donate $500 for some cat therapy time because cat parades are usually fairly stressful for the cats and something that they need to kind of de-stress from after the event. So you can go ahead and donate $500 to that recuperative effort after the cat parade. So if you want to set these particular donation levels, you can do so by coming into your organization's profile. On your profile, you'll be on the overview page by default. To set donation levels, you click on Donation Levels, and you can add a donation level from here. you put the amount in that you want that donation level to be, and then the label that you want it to be. And so corresponding the amount being the $10 and the donation level being the little description here. A couple of notes about limitations here. There's a 40-character limit for the donation label that can go down here. So you have to be brief with your description. And the limit on the number of donation levels you can have is 5. So you see we have 5 right here. Anything beyond that and our layout and the way that it looks and responds to donors becomes inconsistent. And so we recommend that you don't go above 5 different donation levels if you're going to use that feature. And so as soon as you add the amount, and I'm here on the back end again, where you can modify this, as soon as you enter the amount and the label, it'll show up like this in a list, and then will appear here on your donation amount for the donor. A couple of other questions are asked of donors when they're checking out. They ask, we're asking if you're a first-time donor to the organization, yes or no. If you want your donation to be anonymous, yes or no, and whether or not you'd like to help cover processing fees for the day. And so depending on these questions, if the donor does not want their donation to be anonymous, you'll be able to get an idea of which donors on the actual day are first-time donors to your organization or which are recurring donors. If a donor chooses to be anonymous, the only thing that you'll be able to see about that transaction and about that donation that you received is the transaction date and time and the amount of the donation. So normally we allow organizations, nonprofits participating to collect information around the donors who donated on the GiveStay, so billing information like mailing address and name and phone number and email, those kinds of things. No payment information, but just contact information for that individual so that you can potentially follow up with them in the future for other campaigns and things along those lines. But if a donor chooses to be anonymous, we don't collect that information for organizations. So I'm going to say that I'm going to donate $100 to help pay for a cat float for the parade. I'm not a first-time donor to the organization. I'm a regular cat parade contributor. I don't want my donation to be anonymous, and I do want to help cover those processing fees. That'll add 3% to the total donation. And I'll go to my this page here, this intermediary page before checking out, which shows me the total that I'm donating, what the organization is, and the total that I'm donating there. So you can see it's $103 because it's $100 plus our 3% fee covering for $103. You'll see for most, if not all organizations on the day of, you'll see recommended nonprofits underneath here. Recommended nonprofits aren't showing up right now because we have a test organization, so it doesn't work quite the same way. But for regular organizations, donors will see recommended nonprofits, and this is a feature that gets more and more robust the more people use the site. So as people are using the site, it takes connections and information from what organizations people donated to and recommends kind of through that recommends nonprofits that a donor might be interested in. Similar to the way that Amazon's cart features where it says people who bought this product might be interested in this other product. It does the same thing for nonprofits as a way to try to help increase the amount of donation and philanthropy that people use throughout the day. So if I'm done with all of my donations, I can select as many organizations as I want. I can contribute to as many organizations as I want. I go to checkout, and just like a card on Amazon or another website, it'll have all the things, all the donations that I want to make to all the organizations here. It'll have my total for the day, and I can either pay using a credit card or a bank account. There's actually, just realizing there's one step that we missed here because I'm actually logged in, so it skipped a step, so I want to make sure that I get that. There is an option that will show up in between that when I've chosen my amount and I've added it to the cart and I'm ready to donate. that will ask me to log in or create a donor profile or donate as a guest. So donors have a few different options here for how they want to donate. If they are donating before the actual Gives Day, so from now until the Gives Day when scheduled donations are up and running, they have to create a profile so that their information can be saved to be processed on the actual Gives Day. However, on the Gives Day, they can donate as a guest, which means you don't need a login. You just put in your payment information and can make a donation securely that way. However, if donors want to create a profile, they can. The benefits are that they can keep track of their donations year after year or throughout the day if they're giving multiple donations. They can print their own receipts. They can export their donations in a spreadsheet for tax purposes and keep track of the donations that they've given or any scheduled donations that they're making on a recurring or regular basis. So if a donor chooses to donate as a guest, again, it takes them to this credit card and bank account page where they can choose the payment method that they'd like to use to make that payment. Once they make that payment, it sends an email that is a confirmation of their total. So how much did they donate to each organization that they can use for tax purposes. Again, if there are any questions for anyone that has joined since we got started here, if you have any questions, there's a Q&A feature in the top left corner. Please feel free to ask any questions that you might have using that feature. Everyone is muted by default, but if you have a question, using that Q&A feature will go directly to myself, and I'll be able to answer that question for you. I see we have Amy has raised her hand. Amy, if you can use that Q&A feature, if that's possible, to ask your question, I'd be very happy to answer that question for you through there. So let's see, I'm just checking my notes to make sure I don't miss anything here. So moving on from the donor page here, I see we've got a Q&A question. Give me one second. The question from Amy is, do they get a tax receipt from TCN or do we send it? They should get a tax receipt from the website automatically. So whenever you submit a donation and it's processed, you'll receive an email that says, thank you so much for your donation to The Amazing Rays. Here's a summary of your donations. It'll say you made a donation of $100 to Cats on Parade and $50 to organization X and $20 to organization Y. You can use this for your tax purposes. So donors should get an email after that. If they don't receive that email and they have an account, they've created a login, they should be able to go and create and send themselves that email again. If they still don't have an email and they've checked their spam and their trash folders for anything like that, we can resend that email to them or check to see if the email address that they provided on their billing information was mistyped to get that to them. Another question that was asked, when a donor makes a pledge ahead of 10/17, when is it credited to the site? Is there a certain time? So for scheduled donations, if a donor comes onto the site today and makes a scheduled donation, essentially how that functions is by saving payment information. We don't save payment information on our site, but it's saved securely through our payment provider Stripe. That payment information is saved, and their billing information is saved. That information will then be used on 10/17 to actually process their donation. So the donor gets a message when they're checking out that says, please note, you aren't getting charged today. You're going to get charged on 10/17. You're scheduling your donation to be processed then. At that point, the donation will be processed. They're usually processed in the first couple of hours around midnight. So right around when the site goes live, we process all of those donations to make sure that everything is running smoothly and working well. But they'll actually be deducted from the account. They're on 1017. They'll receive that receipt email at that time when the donation is actually processed. And one note on that, as far as time is concerned, I believe we do have a couple of prizes that are time window specific, a 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Most donations, and then a 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Prize. Scheduled donations are not going to count towards any time-specific prizes because they are all usually processed around the beginning, so they're not included in those types of prizes. I believe, and Holly and Ashley, you all can correct me if I'm mistaken in this, but I believe that scheduled donations will count towards the totals for the overall prizes. So I believe there are a couple of prizes for the first organization to raise a certain amount on the day of, and scheduled donations will be counted towards those overall first to a certain amount prize, but just
You're correct.
not to approve. Okay, great. So yes, the scheduled will count towards a couple of those first to $1,000 prizes, but not towards the particular time window prizes. Another question from Michelle. We are holding an event and asking people to make a donation for Gives Day, but the event will be a couple of days prior to Gives Day. Does each donor need to create an account, or can we create an account and process each donation through one account? We're trying to streamline the checkout process. So unfortunately, each donor would need to create an account because the donor profile page is designed to be specifically for one individual donor. You could get into some tricky situations if you tried to do more multiple donors on one account, because those donors would potentially have access to multiple payment methods. And you'd have payment information for multiple people all housed under one account. So the sign up process is fairly painless. It's about as painless as you can hope to get. It basically asks you for first name, last name, email address, and a password. And then that's it. There's no confirmation email. There's nothing beyond that. And then you're immediately logged in using that and have all of your donation information there. So it only takes maybe an extra minute to set that up on an individual basis. But no, you won't be able to, or I would certainly not recommend that you set up one account and have multiple individuals' payment information stored under that same account. Is there any way for a donor to restrict their donation to a specific program use as a pull-down menu or other way, especially if the organization added programs to their organization profile on the site? Currently, we don't have any way to have a donor indicate something like that on the day of. One thing that we could explore, and this would have to be something that I discussed with Holly and Ashley, would be the possibility of adding a description box or any notes with a donation, which is something we could potentially add in, so that when you're making a donation to an organization, if I'm finding a nonprofit and I'm giving to that organization, that when I'm filling this out, there's another box that says notes. That's something that we could potentially add to the site. So
yes, I would like to do that, Joe, if we could.
Yeah, fantastic. Then yes, Karen, we will be able to do that. So in the coming days, we will add in a box here below the help cover processing fees that says donation notes. It's just a text box, a little paragraph box that donors can use to type in there. So we will add that in, and donors can then specify, and we'll give the organizations give all the nonprofits access to those notes, so that if a donor does have particular notes on their donation, that you'll be able to have access to them. Great. Okay. Michelle asks, what if a donor prefers to drop off a check on Gives Day? How will this be credited, and is it also subject to the 3% fee? So it depends on the way in which the donation is processed. So the only thing that is subject to the fee, the only thing that is subject to fees are the payments that are processed directly through the website. So if you donate via credit card or you donate via ACH payment through the website, you'll be subject to those fees. However, if you hand a check to the organization on the day of, that's wonderful for the organization. You won't be charged any fees through that method. That being said, if you as an organization receive someone delivering cash or check directly to your organization as part of that, that will not be credited towards prizes. And unless you communicate directly with Ashley and Holly, that won't be added to the ticker. So there are ways that TCN can manually add donations that you may have received to your organization, so that it shows up on your profile as part of your total. But I believe that those donations through that method won't be counted towards prizes because of the inability to verify those donations and the fact that they're not being processed through the site.
Correct. They will not count toward the prizes, but they will count toward the match. So what we will probably do is Ashley and I will get together some sort of spreadsheet and send it to all of you that you can use to record those. We are not going to require verification, but we're trusting in good faith that you'll only enter those donations that you receive on that day. And then you can send us the spreadsheet and we'll credit them toward the match pool, but as Joe mentioned, not toward the separate prizes.
Great. And just to clarify on matching and on the match pool, that match pool that we were talking about a little bit earlier, that is not the TCN match. That is an internal match that your organization has specifically for your Gives Day. So Tri-County is doing a match, but that is not what that match pool amount is for. That's for your own organization. If you have a donor that says they want to contribute $1,000, that is a one-to-one match, and there's no way to modify that to be any other type besides a one-to-one match. So just a couple clarifications on the matching functionality there. So it doesn't look like we have any unanswered questions currently, so I'm going to move on to leaderboards and prizes. So on the day of, you'll see this leaderboards area. Oh, I got to switch to the right day. On the day of, you'll see the leaderboards area. If you click on leaderboards, it'll show you the total for the day. So the same number that you see on the front page of the website, you'll also see here, total for all organizations throughout the day. And then you'll see the rules here for prizes that are outlined here, and we'll go over those. And then by default, everyone going here will show up at the organizations tab, which shows all of the organizations that are participating in the day, the number of unique donors that they've had throughout the day, and the total amount that they've had donated to them throughout the day. This amount includes the match. So it works in the same way as your organization profile number. Those two numbers should match up by and large. You'll also see if that organization has a particular match, and a donor could click on your organization and go specifically to your profile. Donors and nonprofits can filter by organization size based on the category that you set your organization to, as well as sort by particular types of organizations that they might want to see listed out here. The second tab is the prizes tab. On the day of, you'll see the prizes that are available to be won here. The winner will be blank, but the category and the prize sponsor will be included here. And it'll say something like, first organization to raise $1,000 on Amazing Raise Day. And then it'll, give the amount for that prize if there's a prize sponsor. And then as those criteria are met throughout the day, as those prizes are awarded, the organization will be connected to that particular prize. So if your organization wins a prize, you'll see your name show up as the prize winner under that particular category. So to go into the rules around prizes, you can only win one prize. So you can only win one prize throughout the day. Only funds raised electronically on the day of will count towards your prize eligibility. So this means that those checks that were handed to you aren't going to count. Any matching funds that a donor might be contributing towards the day that you are hosting internally don't count. So anything that is processed through the system is something that's going to be counted towards prizes. Matching funds don't count towards prizes, as we've outlined before. And just a couple of clarifications that the total amount on your organization's profile, it doesn't necessarily reflect the amount that can be counted towards prizes. So in that same idea that matching fund amount that you might have is going to impact the total that your organization is raising, means that amount doesn't necessarily reflect that amount that can be counted towards prize awards. Prizes will be awarded throughout the day as they're won. So as we determine the winners of various prizes, as those criteria are met, we'll announce those winners and let you know if you were one of the organizations that won a prize. And then prize funds will be distributed via check to the participating nonprofit within 2 to 3 weeks following the event. It'll be added to your total there. So just a couple of rules and pieces about prizes there. So are there any other questions that people have, or areas that are confusing or uncertain that you'd like to answer? This is a perfect opportunity. We have some time here to answer any questions that you might have about pretty much anything about the site. If you're having trouble with customizing your profile, if you're confused about a step, if you're uncertain of what to see on the day, this is a good time to ask. Michelle asks, how will donations be distributed to the nonprofits? Holly, I think you can probably speak to that better than I can.
Sure. It typically takes us a week or two to get checks cut from our CPA. You can print a report anytime after Gives Day, or at least go in and look and see what your donations are, and we'll certainly let you know. We'll probably come up with some kind of form that we'll email to you that has your donations, including the checks and what your match is going to be. So TCN will actually send you a check from TCN that includes all of those donations, any prizes that you won, and of course your match. So what we'll probably do is create some kind of form that has all of that information and get that to you a day or two after the Amazing Raise, and then your check will probably come within 2 weeks.
Great. And so just to highlight that your ability to look at donations that you've received and look at that information, on the actual Gives Day, your access to the back end of the site, to the administrator of the site, will be restricted fairly substantially. You will pretty much only be able to see the donations that are coming in for your organization if you log into the back end. You won't be able to see donation levels or programs or events or multimedia, or because we won't be allowing folks to update or change information about their profile, their organization's profile on the day of. We restrict access to those areas just as an extra level of kind of reducing traffic on the website, so that we make sure that everybody visiting the website has a really great experience. Things are processing quickly and moving through quickly. And we don't have a lot of kind of things that folks can click on that don't really do anything anyways, because all this will be restricted. So on the actual Gives Day, you'll really only be able to see this process donations area. You'll see the information that a donor has provided here. If they're anonymous, again, you won't see any of this first name, last name, address information. You'll just see the transaction date and time and the amount. But you'll be able to export that list so that you can have a donor list from the day. How much has been raised in matching funds? That, again, I think is a question Holly can answer better than I.
Yes. So far, we have close to $17,000 in the match pool.
Great. Sally asks, when can folks go to the site to schedule a donation? Folks can go right now. Scheduled donations have been open for a little bit, and donors can go on the site as of right this moment and schedule a donation for the day for your organization. So I'd encourage you to use that feature. That's a good way to get donors who might be traveling or busy or absent-minded and forget on the actual day of, that you can ensure that their donation is going to get processed on the day if you have them schedule in advance. So now is a good time to start telling your donors to go on and schedule donations throughout the day. Any other questions that folks have about managing their profile, what to expect on the Gives Day, how prizes work, how matching funds work, or anything else related to the day? This is the last webinar that we'll be holding before the actual day. This recording will be available on the website under the nonprofit resources area, which by the way, just to highlight, if you haven't been here, this is a great area to go to check out other training resources and documentation around the day. Email template suggestions to your donors, marketing strategies, tips for having a really successful Gives Day. And then there's also a video on here around how to set up content creation. So it really goes into detail about setting up your profile. If you're still working through that, this is a good place to start to answer those questions. And then down below, some information about prizes. So this video will also be available to view in this area of the site as well. Amy asks, how do matching funds from TCN work?
In terms of the amount that you'll receive, I'm assuming that that's probably the question. Basically what we're doing is once we find out the total amount raised on that day, so that's through checks that you're sending to, information to TCN, as well as money raised on the site that day, the total amount, we'll see how much you've raised, like how much your organization has raised out of that total. And whatever percentage that is, that's the percentage of your total that you will receive. So we can probably send you like a chart of examples that will have, like, if you raise X, this is what, and the match pool is X, this is what your amount will be. So, I mean, they'll just give you a little bit of an idea, but you will get whatever percentage of the total funds are raised that you've raised through your organization. That's the percentage that you will get of the match pool based on the amount that you've raised. I know it's somewhat convoluted. It's not a one-to-one match. We just unfortunately don't have the funds to do that, maybe one day. But the more money we have in the match pool, the more money that will be available to nonprofits. But we'll send you something that gives you the math formula so that you can kind of calculate based on, certain numbers.
Great. And then Joe asks, will we be able to see who scheduled a donation prior to 10/17? Yes, you should be able to see donations that are scheduled prior to 10/17. If you go to your organization, you log into the administrative side of the website and you go to your organization's donation information. you'll see there's a process donations tab as well as a recurring and scheduled donations for Gives Day tab. If you click on that scheduled donations for Gives Day, you should see if there are any donations that have been scheduled by donors for the day. It'll say the amount that they're planning on donating, the first and last name for billing purposes, and then the scheduled date, and it should be 10/17 for all of those donations. If they said they wanted to be anonymous, you won't be able to see that first and last name, just the date and the amount there. Okay, so it doesn't look like there are any questions left at this point. If you have any, this is your last opportunity to ask a question. If you have a question that comes up after this that you need the answer to, please feel free to reach out to Holly and Ashley, and they will more likely than not be able to answer your question for you. And if they're unable to answer it, if it's something technical or related to the site that they're not sure of, they'll be sure to pass it along to me, and I will be happy to answer that question for you as soon as I'm able. So if there aren't any more questions today, we're gonna wrap up today's presentation. So again, just a couple of important dates. Of course, the Gives Day is on 10/17, so I'm sure everyone has that on their calendar, but just to reiterate, and that'll be for that full 24 hours on the 17th. And then content management for your profile closes on October 3rd. This is really important. So not this coming not Tuesday tomorrow, but the Tuesday after, just over a week from now on Tuesday the 3rd, your content management will close. So you will no longer be able to change anything about your organization as far as the photo, your federal tax ID number, your name, your description. All of this information will be locked. All of these donation levels, programs, events, multimedia campaigns, all of that will be locked as well. So your profile, as far as the public is concerned, will be static and finished on October 3rd. So please make sure to mark your calendars and get any changes that you need to make into your profile by then. And feel free to ask any questions that you might have about getting those things finalized before the 3rd, because after that point, things will be locked down as we prepare for the actual day. So it's been a pleasure, and I appreciate all your questions, some great questions today. And please, again, feel free to reach out with any other questions that you might have as you're filling out your profile. Otherwise, everyone have a wonderful week, and we will post this video on the administrative side under the nonprofit resources area. Thanks all.